Hello, everybody. Welcome to It Gets So Lonely here. I don't know much about this game. I just thought that it was like a yandere game, but like Yuri, and I was sold immediately. I'm not gonna lie, but I'm excited. So let's play. This GUI is great. You are running through a forest. It is late at night and the sky is as black as pitch. There is nothing to light your way save for the moon's milky glow, but its rays cannot reach you, not properly. The trees which surround you, jutting out of the earth like eerie monuments to a foreign god, are blotting out most of the light. You cannot see where you are going. Even if you had commenced your flight at a more sensible hour, however, with the light of the sun to aid you, it would be of little use. You do not know where you are going. You have no map, no route, no plan. You are running like a frightened animal, anxious and nervy, with no destination in mind. I just get so nervy. I'm sorry. You have no desire, as you run, save to escape. You cannot let yourself be caught. If that were to happen, you are certain that you would be ruined. You have no choice, therefore, but to keep going, on and on and on, though your feet are screaming at you for mercy. You have no idea how long you've been running. Time has begun to blend together. It has lost all meaning. Something sharp snags at the hem of your skirt, but you do not have the luxury to pause and examine what has happened. Instead, you tug. Your skirt tears, the sound splitting through the forest, and you stumble forwards with a shocked gasp. You are free, but at what cost? Your skirt has been damaged. It may be too late to worry about such trivial matters now, though. If you don't start running again, and soon she will catch you, then your life will be over. You don't know if she's still following you, but you don't want to risk looking over your shoulder. If you were to see her silhouetted beneath a tree, looking at you with that sickly sweet smile which once ensnared you, you would lose what little nerve you possess. Your legs would lock up and your blood would freeze in your veins. Then you would crumple. You would fall, but you would not hit the ground. She would be there to catch you. Did she not promise, when you made that contract, that you would never be alone? You would like to take back that silly wish of yours, but it's too late for that. It's too late for a lot of things. All you can do is run. You run and run and run while icy fog swirls around your feet. It is cold enough to sap the heat from your body, and you shudder from it. It feels as though you are drowning. It feels as though you are being burned alive. Your knees and your shins, meanwhile, are bleeding. You cannot endure much more of this, but if you value your own life, you must. You run and you run and you run until, at long last, you reach a fork in the road. There are three paths which split off through the forest. Well, four if you count the path down which you came. You cannot exactly double back on yourself, though. Not when you have put so much effort into running forwards. You can only press on. The three paths are signposted, which is something of a strange sight given you're so deep in the forest. Dark though it might be, you've grown accustomed to the shadows. You can just about pick out the writing on this old, dilapidated signpost, curved and slanted though it is. Your fate, if you'll forgive me for sounding cliche, is in your hands. Now I wonder, which path will you take? Well, I really like castles, so I'm gonna go to the castle. So you want to go to the castle? Good idea. All decent fairy tales tend to conclude in castles once their put upon heroines are finally able to wed the handsome princes they once dreamed of. Why bother trying your luck with the shore, which may very well be deserted, or the village, which will be full of dirty, barefoot peasants? It is far better to skip the suffering and go straight to the grand finale. That is very astute of you. I did not realize you had it in you to be so mercenary. I can only wonder what you'll uncover during your moonlight meanderings. This feels like it's AP in English language and composition all over again. I got a 4 on that exam, by the way. The night is far from over, and your adventures are only just beginning. I hope only that you have brushed up on your curtsies. They might come in handy when one is interacting with a sovereign. Royals can be temperamental after all. If you fail to treat them with the prerequisite amount of respect, you might come to regret it. You follow the path which leads to the castle, supporting yourself on weary, aching legs which feel ready at a moment's notice to detach from your hips. You are a little more than a wisp of a girl, but you have been running for so very long, and your feet are so very numb, you feel like a great lumbering thing, clumsy and ungainly. The soles of your feet are screaming at you. You need to lie down and quickly. You can only hope, as you continue to run, that you'll find a spare room available for you in the castle. You do not know what exactly will await you at the castle, but you have visions as you run of a vast, opulent dwelling. This dwelling will surely be full of finely furnished rooms in which you might rest your weary head. There must also be a king and queen inside this castle, you ponder. Who will be kind and wise, and what of their children? What of a princess? Every good castle must possess a princess who will take pity on you and your plight. You can imagine the face of this generous princess with ease, thanks to the fairy tales you read in abundance as a small child. The princess will be fair of hair and blue of eye, with soft pink lips pursed like rosebuds. Her limbs will be slender, her hands dainty and unsullied from physical labor, and her sensibilities will be sweeter than marzipan. She will be kind to you and compassionate, just like an older sister. You do not know what older sisters are like, though, or younger sisters for that matter. You're only guessing. You are not a complete fool, however, despite your tendency to daydream, and you do have a few reservations. Monarchs do not, as you know from voracious reading, have the best track record when it comes to caring for the peasantry. Was there not a very famous queen who once said, with a cavalier wave of her hand, that the hungry peasants in her kingdom should content themselves with cake if bread was not an option? And now it's AP European history. You'd think that this might be a misquote, but the point still stands. Though royals are supposed to grant their subjects succor in their time of need, this does not always happen. In fact, it very rarely happens. Kings and queens and princesses and princes are just people at the end of the day, and they are subject to the same caprices that all humans are. They can also be careless and selfish and inconsiderate. There is no guarantee that this mythical princess of your imagination will help you. Why, there is no guarantee that this mythical princess exists at all. Still, you must try. It is this hope which keeps you going. You continue to run to the castle. It takes some time before you finally emerge from the woods, but finally you do it. How much time, you ask? I cannot answer that. Did I not say that time had begun to lose all its meaning? The forest is behind you now, at least, with all the awful nightmares which dwelt within it. It is still cold, though, and foggy, and very, very dark. The sun has yet to rise. You can see the moon more clearly now, though, as it hangs above your head, round as any pearl or orb or crystal ball. The moonlight shines down upon the castle, which looms in front of you like a cliffside. The stone edifice of the building is imposing, and it drowns you in shadows darker than the depths of the deepest ocean. The castle's not all dark, though, not like the night sky above it. When you crane your head, you can see that there are lights flickering within, in the narrow slitted windows. It would appear that somebody is home. The king and the queen, perhaps. What of their servants? What, perhaps more pressingly, of their guards? You half expect, as you stand there, that armored knights will accost you for daring to approach the castle of King and Queen so-and-so. Do you not know your place, foolish peasant girl with the dirty skirt? Be gone with you. You are not, of course, a peasant. Your family is a wealthy one, or rather, they were before your father made a series of poor financial decisions. You do not look like a young lady right now, though, with your dirty face and your dirty skirt, which is torn at the hem. If any guards were to take you for a vagrant, it would not be surprising. But, though you stand there dithering, your filthy fingers hooked in front of your filthy skirt, you do not hear any cries. Nobody sounds the alarm. Lights may be on inside the castle, but there is nobody outside its perimeter standing sentry. There is nobody to impede your entry, and the elaborate iron gates which are set into the vast stone walls about the castle's exterior are open just a crack. It would be a trivial matter to slip inside. There is nobody to stop you. Why are you trembling now, you silly thing? You've come so very far, it would be an act of foolishness to turn around now. Go on, go. You inhale, perhaps in an attempt to screw up your courage, which has at long last begun to fail you, and then you step forwards. You slide between the wrought iron gates, as steadily and as secretive as a thief, then cross the path which leads up to the tall, imposing structure. The domed doorway which leads into the castle itself, hewn from stone, is closed, but at a push of your palm it swings inwards. The door creaks alarmingly as it opens, the sound loud enough to split the silence like a thunderclap. You inhale at this and glance around, your eyes darting hither and thither. If there are any guards posted about the castle's grounds, they should all have been alerted by that sound. Will they come for you at long last? What will happen should they try to catch you? Will they throw you in the dungeons? That does not sound like a pleasant way to spend a night. At least you would have a roof over your head, though, and you would not have to keep walking. Your feet really do ache. You stand there for an indeterminable amount of time, your heart pounding a panicked, irregular rhythm in the base of your throat. But no matter how much time elapses, no guards come. You are thankful for your good luck, though it does make you wonder. Where is everybody? Why, it is almost as if all the people in the world have disappeared. Could you be the very last human alive? There's a game about that. It's a game about that, and it's called Luda Solo Yova will be the last person on Earth, and it's really good. You frown, then press your palm back against the door. You push less cautiously this time, heedless of the loud sound which splits the silence. There's no point in worrying about the guards. Not when they might as well be very non-existent. Your entry to the castle secured, you then take a step forwards. The door swings shut behind you, and a slam makes you jump. Your heart knocks against your ribs, and, with wild eyes, you glance about. You're standing in a vast entrance hall made of stone which splits off into any number of passages. At the very end of the hall, meanwhile, there's a large, elaborate staircase, one which seems to extend to the heavens themselves. It is dark inside the hall, but there are numerous torches set in the stone wall, which are aflame. They offer some relief from the shadows. You can hear the faint sound of the wind outdoors as it moans against the castle walls, but you cannot hear any footsteps. You cannot hear any voices. You cannot, more importantly, hear any people. Maybe the castle is empty. If that is the case, though, then who lit these torches? It's a curious conundrum. You muster up what remains of your courage, then cry out, addressing the empty hall in a voice which fails to properly fill up the space. Hello, you say, your eyes wide. Is anybody there? Your voice echoes through the vast empty hall, but it is met yet again with silence. You cannot say you're too surprised, but it's somewhat disappointing. Not one to be deterred, you try again and again, your voice growing louder with each subsequent attempt. No matter how loud your voice, however, it fails to reach any ears. If anybody is here, they do not seem particularly sociable. That, or perhaps they simply cannot hear you. Could they be in another room? Yes, that must be it. You'll never find that pretty fairy tale princess of your imagination if you stand idle, you know. It's time to get to work. Put those legs of yours to good use. Not knowing what else to do, is there anything else you can do? You begin to explore. You examine the rooms first on the ground floor of the castle, which are of a similar scale to the impressive entrance hall, large and richly furnished but utterly unoccupied. After some time of aimless meandering, encountering nobody save the ghost of aeons past memorialized on the portraits upon the walls, you muster the courage to ascend to the second floor. This floor, too, you examine, wandering through a seemingly endless series of hallways until, at long last, you find a door which is ajar. From between the crack in the door and the jamb, you can see flickering light, irregular, yes, but it is light nonetheless. Could it be from a fireplace? That would suggest then that this room is occupied, unlike all the others. Perhaps the kindly princess you dreamed of will be awaiting you in this room. It is with a trembling hand that you press your palm against the door. Then you step inside the bedchamber which unveils itself to you. Shyly you stand at the threshold of the chamber, much of your courage extinguished, and gasp. The bedroom itself is gorgeous. It's a chamber so luxurious that not even the shadows can obscure the fine craft of the furniture within it, nor the rich patterns on the walls. It is the girl inhabiting the chamber, however, who truly takes your breath away. Down. Sitting upon the velveteen sheets of the towering four-poster is a girl in a sumptuous red gown who seems to be of a like age to you. You do not have a clear view of the girl's face. Her head is bowed, her gaze directed downwards at her lap. You could tell from her hair, however, and her slender curls, which protrude from beneath the hem of her dress, that she is very pretty. The girl's hair is golden, just like freshly cut wheat, but it's the red of her dress which truly captures your attention. She is so striking you cannot look away from her. The girl is not alone in her chamber either. She has a companion, though this companion is not half so endearing as she. In her lap, perched upon her velvet skirt, is the doll. The doll's hair, like that of her mistress's, is golden, though much of it is hidden beneath the bonnet. The girl's adjusting the china teacup held in the doll's tiny hand, while the rim of the cup glints in the light which exudes from the fireplace. If the girl is of a similar age to you, it seems strange that she would content herself by playing with dolls. Is she not too old for it? This girl would be more at home, you decide, at a ball, wearing an extravagant gown, speaking with wealthy noblemen, perhaps even princes. She should not be sitting in what you presume is her bedchamber, adjusting a teacup in a doll's hand. But you are not afforded much more time to stand there, marveling at the girl because she turns. She raises her head. Then her eyes meet yours. You thought the girl pretty when you first observed her, sitting on the edge of her plush velveteen bed, examining her doll. Now she is looking at you, however, her face illuminated by the flames in their gray. You can see you were mistaken. She's not just pretty, she's beautiful. So much so, it's breathtaking. She looks as though she stepped out the pages of a picture book. She's simply too perfect to belong to this world. Perhaps she's some kind of vision, a waking dream, a hallucination? But no, she's none of these things. The doll on her lap is a cold, hard thing made of porcelain, and it's unflinchingly, reassuringly real. If she were a mirage, surely she would not be able to handle physical objects such as this. It is strange, though. The doll, though immaculately made, looks oddly imperfect when compared to the girl who's holding it. She's so startlingly beautiful. She even puts man-made representations of feminine charms to shame. The sight of her makes you feel rather weak. You always have had a fondness for fair maidens, haven't you? You're rather hopeless when it comes to them, even worse than a knight errant from a courtly legend. Your aesthetic appreciation is not particularly ladylike, but, well, not every day a girl encounters an elegant beauty like this, attired in red, illuminated by the firelight. I suppose I can forgive you for this rudeness, as too can the girl. She does not seem like the type to hold a grudge. Oh, the girl says, in a voice that, surprisingly enough, far less refined than her appearance. It's good to see you. I've been waiting. Has she? That's news to you. You blink, perplexed, a response on the tip of your tongue, but you're unable to expel it into the ether. The girl's setting her doll aside. Then she stands, the hem of her dress swishing around her legs. Nimbly, like a ballerina, she canvasses the space between you. Her room is so very large, there's quite a lot of space. Then takes your hands in her own. You must, the girl says, her eyes aglow with excitement, be my new lady's maid. It's been a while, but it's such a relief that you finally arrived. I knew you would. You'd never leave me alone, not when you knew how long I was waiting. Oh, I'm so happy. She's so cute. The girl's good mood is contagious, so much so you find yourself being swept away in it. You're tempted to accept any identity she might press upon you. You've never been a maid before, but you might not mind being this girl's maid. She does not seem like a poor mistress to serve, not if she's always this kind. You cannot mask the confusion, however, which flickers upon your face. You're not a good enough actress, and in any case, this is all happening too quickly. Why, you barely know this girl. Why is she being so very familiar? It is with blank bovine eyes you examine the girl. Your befuddlement is pronounced enough that even the girl, despite her good mood, notices it. She frowns. Then, she says, her fingers sliding away from your own. Or am I mistaken? Are you not my new lady's maid after all? The disappointment in the girl's face is abundant, so much so your heart clenches. You do not know her, she's still a stranger, but you are struck all of a sudden with the intense desire to appease her. You don't want to let her down. The thought is devastating. You're not aware, you tell her, that you would apply to be her maid, but if that's what she wills, you would not be opposed to it. You pray that she forgives you, though, for your confusion. You come from a distant country and you've traveled many miles. You don't know where you are and you don't know who she is. What? You don't know who I am? It is regrettable, you tell her, but no, you don't know her, though that's no fault of her own. Why, you've spent such a long time running, you hardly even know yourself. Ah, so you're a fugitive then from another country. I see. I won't pry into your past then if you'd rather forget about it. I don't mind sharing my past with you, though. Everybody in this country knows who I am after all. Or, at least, they should. Now, this is quite the impressive boast. If it were to come from the lips of another, you would find it unpleasantly arrogant. You do not think, however, that this girl is trying to show off. You get the feeling instead that she's merely telling the truth. If you don't have the pleasure of knowing me, then allow me to do the honors. My father and my mother were the king and queen of this realm, and I am its princess. I've lived in this castle all my life, so I don't know much about the outside world, but I know there are other countries that do exist out there. I presume that it's from one of these foreign countries that you come from. It is very good to meet you. I've always wanted to talk to someone from overseas. It feels like quite the opportunity. The girl giggles at this, and you smile in response. You tell her unthinkingly that it's your pleasure really to meet her. Or at least you mean to. You only get halfway through this remark when the full gravity of what the girl has told you sinks in. You come to a stop, then you stare. Did she just say she was a princess? Yes, that's right. I'm a princess, and one day I'll be a queen, after I've done a little bit of growing up. My ministers don't think I'm ready to run the country just yet, but I've been doing my best at my lessons. One day, I'm sure I'll be the best queen there ever was. So she really is a princess. That makes sense, you suppose, given she lives in a castle, but it comes as a surprise regardless. You hadn't known before you entered this chamber that you were trespassing on a lady of such great renown. Why, if she willed it, she could have executed you for your carelessness. An ugly red flush creeps upon your face. A flush which is far more lurid than the princess's dress as you look to your feet. Bashfully you stammer out a new address, that you're very sorry for intruding upon her and you hope that she can forgive you. Oh, it's all right. Think nothing of it. I don't mind, really. We all make mistakes, and anyway, you weren't to know. You said you weren't from around here. You nod your head in silent affirmation. It isn't a complete lie. You really are not from this country. You're not from this world at all. How wonderful. I look forward to picking your brain later. I think this girl's a vampire, y'all. But she has a fang and she dresses in red and black, and you know red and black are only vampire colors. Don't look at my soda too hard. All my servants come from the nearby village. Their tales are all the same, and so are their superstitions. My last lady's maid told me I was too impetuous, but I don't think there's anything wrong with wanting a bit of an adventure. Not that I've ever been afforded much of that. I've been shut up in here for so long, I hardly get the chance to talk to other girls my age. My last lady's maid was older than me, and so was the one before her, and the one before her. Some of the princess's fair mood seems to dissipate as she speaks, her expression turning by degrees into something rather more pensive. But I haven't seen any of my old lady's maids in a while, or any of the other servants for that matter. They've all disappeared. Now that is quite curious. How could a household full of servants simply disappear? This castle was full of servants once. My lady's maids, and my undermaids, and my scullery maids, and my housekeeper, and my cooks, and a large retinue of retainers. They're all gone now, though. I think my ministers must have sent them away. I don't know why they would have done that, though. They didn't explain it to me. But then again, they never explained anything to me. They still treat me like I'm a little girl. So tiring. She said that her minister sent her servants away. What of her parents, the king and the queen? Would they not be the ultimate authorities in the castle's hierarchy? They would, yes, if they were still alive, but they're not. They died a long time ago. I was raised for most of my life by my servants. Oh, you answer, and then you flush. It's all right. You don't need to apologize. I'm just happy that I have you now. I was getting sick and tired of only having my dolls to speak to. They aren't the best conversational partners. You can imagine so, yes. You doubt any doll, even one made by a talented artisan, with an intelligent face indistinguishable from a human's, would be very good at answering that. Oh, no, they aren't. They're hopeless at it, really. They're so stony-lipped. You have no idea how much of a relief it is to see you. This castle is so big, and without my servants it feels so very empty. It's so lonely here. Now, that is an interesting turn of phrase. It catches inside your head like a burr. Have you heard it before? You do not have much time to ponder this, however, because the princess is speaking anew, in that curiously conversational manner of hers which does not seem particularly princessy. Maybe she learnt how to speak from her servants. That would explain why her consonants are so unrefined. Oh, but listen to me, yammering on again. It's a bad habit. I really must put a stop to it. You're probably tired, dear one, from your travels. Would you like me to show you to your room? Yes, the princess announces before you can say anything in reply. I think I'll do just that. I might show you a bit around the castle first, though. It's like a maze in here, and I wouldn't want you to get lost. You'll be staying here for quite some time after all. The princess then hastens to take you on a tour of her home. Fortunately, she does not show all of the rooms in her abode, and neither does she offer overly long descriptions as to what the few rooms she does show you are used for. She does, however, pause by the kitchens, whereas she gives you some victuals. Once the growling in your belly has been satisfied, the princess then resumes her journey. She leads you down a dark, twisting hallway and up a series of equally dark, twisting steps until she arrives, long last, before a door. The princess pushes this door aside similarly, thus permitting an entrance to a small, humble bedchamber. This chamber is not half so opulent as the grand bedroom in which the princess resides, with its resplendent four-poster and its richly patterned wallpaper. This room's ceiling is not as high, and the singular bed shoved against the wall is thin and narrow. The walls are an unassuming beige, and the floor beneath your soles is of warped wood. There's a malodorous scent, too, which hangs in the air, one of disuse and general decay. You get the feeling that nobody has slept in this room for quite some time. That might explain why it feels so very cold in here. Though, if the princess's tour of her castle has taught you anything, it's that it is cold in every room of her abode. Now, here we are, the final stop of our tour. This will be your room, dear one. I hope it's to your liking. The princess, despite her exalted status, looks somewhat uneasy as she observes you, her eyes upturned like those of a loyal dog's. Is she concerned about your reaction to this room? Perhaps she is afraid you'll turn your nose up at her kindness. For a princess, she is awfully eager to please. This unexpected contrast between the princess's lofty title and her engraving attitude makes you smile. The room is rather scanty, yes, but when it comes to its contents, but it's more than passable. It has a room and four walls, and though it is cold, you fancy you'll feel warmer once you've slipped beneath the bed's sheets. The room is not quite so fancy as your dormitory at the conservatoire, and neither is it so large, but just have one glaring improvement over your previous lodgings. You will not be expected to share it with anybody else. There's only one bed in this room, and this bed is to belong to you. You think that the peace and quiet will do you a world of good. You tell the princess as much, and she smiles. That's good. I was worried you wouldn't like it. I know it isn't much to look at, but it's one of the nicest servant rooms we have in the castle. Most of the maids sleep beneath the roof in this teeny tiny room, which is all cramped. There's 10 beds up there, and they're so close together, there's barely any room to pass between them. I thought it was perfectly ghastly when I saw it the last time I went up there. Not that I was supposed to be up there. It was a rainy day and I couldn't go outdoors, so I was doing a bit of exploring. If the housekeeper had known I'd been skulking around, I don't think she would have been best pleased. Well, in any case, nobody sleeps up there anymore. The scullery maids are all gone now. I couldn't put you up there, though, in the attic with all those empty beds. I didn't think that'd be very cheery. You're not just a scullery maid, you're my lady's maid. That means you deserve good lodgings. It'd be an insult to offer you any less than this. Now, it's getting late. You'll have to forgive me for rabbiting on. I've heard it's something I tend to do. It's a bad habit, one that's unbecoming for a lady. The housekeeper's warned me enough times. You reassure the princess to the contrary, smiling as you do. You do not mind if she talks too much. That is better than not talking at all. Her affable nature makes it easier to spend time with her and manners be damned. Guys, why the fuck is Gummy Bear from I'm a Gummy Bear fame in my notice? What the fuck? You were always scolded too, back in the conservatoire, for your behavior. You know full well how aggravating it can be upbraided, not for any particular misdemeanor, but for being yourself. Well, I'm glad you understand, the princess answers with a giggle. I really should be off, though. It's bad manners to keep you, especially when you look so sleepy. Get some rest. We can talk more tomorrow if you don't mind my ceaseless prattle. I'm glad you seem to appreciate it, at least. Though I'm sure you'll get tired of it eventually. All my old maids did. The princess departs, and in her absence you take a seat upon the bed, your new bed. You cannot help but think that this is all happening very quickly. It does not seem like very long ago that you were still in the forest, running for your life amongst the tall, imposing trees with their gnarled grass branches. The forest might as well be a distant memory now, though. You are indoors, inside a castle no less, and you have been given a room in which to sleep and clothes that you might wear. It seems premature still to declare that you are out of the woods, in a metaphorical sense, I mean, but things could certainly be worse. You force yourself to stand on legs which feel too weary to support you and change into the night clothes hanging in the wardrobe. The night clothes do not fit you perfectly, but you're too tired to care about that. You are too tired to care about much of anything. You retreat to the bed and slide beneath its sheets. Then you let your eyelids fall shut. You exhale, and, lulled by the breeze which blows outdoors, you fall asleep. You are so very tired, your sleep is a deep, dark one. Darker, even, than the furthest abysses of nighttime. Like the nighttime sky, however, which shimmers with stars, your sleep is not devoid of those prismatic fragments you humans call dreams. Though in this case, I rather think your nocturnal imaginings are worth rather more than that. They are not dreams, are they, to which your slumbering mind is subjected? You know that they are not. Otherwise, your body would not be so very cold, not so clammy. The images that flicker beneath your closed eyelids, like the ghostly images in a whatever that is, were not conjured from within your own mind. They were, instead, taken from your memories. You were not merely dreaming, you were remembering. You remember the girls who slept in your dormitory and how they always hastened to use the shower first, so you were last for breakfast. You remember how, when you finally did arrive at the dining hall, the most desirable morsels had already been snaffled up by the girls who got there earlier. You struggled, too, to find a seat once you finally did get your hands on some food because no one ever wanted to sit with you. The other girls all acted like you were lepers, save for when they wanted favors. They never asked for these favors, mind, for why would they? To them your father's prestige did not matter. They were all wealthy ladies too, many of them wealthier than you. When everybody has the airs and graces of a princess, how is anybody supposed to stand out? You stood out the least in your class, perhaps because you were one of the smallest, the frailest, the sickliest, who always came down with colds in the winter. Your poor health did not stop the other girls from treating you as a servant, though, when they remembered that you existed, of course. It was your lot in life, as you dwelt within the stone walls of the conservatoire, to carry school bags across the field like a pack mule. Then, come the evenings, the girls in your dormitory had you sewing on missing buttons and ironing out the creases and wrinkles in their uniforms. If there was an odd job that needed performing, you would always be asked. But these girls did not ask you. That would have been too civilized. They ordered you instead, and as they ordered you, they laughed at you. They laughed and they laughed and they laughed. The laughter hurt, but it hurt considerably less than the kicks did, and the slaps and the pinches. Once, during an embroidery lesson, one of your classmates had an accident with her sewing scissors. She stumbled, or at least she pretended to, and before you knew it, the silvery blades of those scissors were embedded in your left palm. This happened quite some time ago, when you were even littler than you are now, but you can still remember it. The scissors were sharp, and they perforated your skin. Not all the way down to the bone, but enough to bleed. Your wound bled bright red like strawberry jam all over your embroidery. Then, when your professor saw it, she shrieked. Her face turned pale and way as she looked, for a few moments, as though she might faint, though you were the one who was in pain. Your professor looked at your face, she could not bear to look at your hand, then demanded to know why you could not be more careful. Her tone had been an accusatory one, almost as if you had stabbed yourself in the hand with the scissors to goad her. The pain in your hand hurt, but the giggles of your persecutors hurt all the more. They were never punished for that. Perhaps your professor did not care enough to punish them. Perhaps she, like everybody else, thought it was all your fault. The wound, when all was said and done, was not too deep. You didn't even need any stitches. It healed well enough in time on its own, though it still left a scar, a white raised thing, like a crescent moon. You still have that scar. You don't know how much blood you lost. It seemed like a lot back in the classroom. You could smell it in the air sharp as iron, but it could not have been that much, evidently. If your wound had been more serious, perhaps your professor might have cared. Perhaps your classmates too would have felt some modicum of guilt over what they did. But this seems very unlikely. You know that your blood meant nothing to your classmates. Why should it? If you meant next to nothing, then the blood in your veins was, if such a thing is possible, even more inconsequential. You feel disoriented when you awake at long last with the rising of the sun. You do not remember what you dreamt, but you do not think that your dreams were of a particularly pleasant nature. If they were, your heart would not be hammering so. Ill at ease, you glance around. You are lying in a narrow bed in an unremarkable room, one with dull beige walls and a warped wooden floor. Where exactly are you? This does not look like your dormitory in the conservatoire, not unless it has shrunk threefold overnight. Your brow furrows as you attempt to recall the events of last night prior, until, with a gasp, it all clicks into place. You were running through the woods, trying to escape from. You shudder. You do not want to think about what it was you were trying to escape from. You presume that you must have given your hunter the slip, though, because you were still in one piece, awake and alert enough to face the dawning of a new morning. You still have all your limbs, and your facial features appear to be in the correct configuration. That is more than enough to be getting along with. You look to the foot of your bed, then blink, bemused at your discovery. You can see lying upon the sheets a garment, two garments, actually, of black and white folded into a neat white square. What could that be? A maid's outfit? If so, it wouldn't be too surprising. You can now recall your visit with the princess the night prior, and her assertions that you must be her lady's maid. Well, if that is the role she wants you to assume, you have no qualms with it. It is far preferable to the other role you played last night, that of a startled quarry running from its pursuer. You press your fingers against the humble maid's attire. It feels surprisingly soft to the touch, not coarse like you expected. These clothes are rather fine. You rise from your new bed, then undress yourself, unbuttoning the front of your plain white nightgown and setting it aside. This task accomplished, you then clad yourself in your new attire, black, white, and eminently sensible. You feel very far away from the girl that you once were. Your face might be the same as always, but something within you seems to have changed. You are no longer a student, not as long as you mean to reside within the princess's castle. You would far rather be her servant. Assured of your newfound identity, you retreat from your chamber, then make your way to your mistress's bedroom. The castle is a large one with many, many rooms and many, many hallways to connect them, and for a brief while you find yourself horrendously lost. You cannot remember where the princess's bedroom is. You are beginning to feel rather disoriented when, to your relief, your eyes snag upon a stairwell which looks familiar. You ascend these steps, your footfalls cushioned by the plush carpet which lines them, then find your way down the same hall you traversed the night prior. If your memory does not fail you, then the princess's bedroom ought to be. Yes, it is here. You rap upon the door but receive nothing in the way of a response. Is the princess still abed? You wonder briefly whether you oughtn't wait until she had risen on her own accord, but no. The sun is high in the sky, and it would seem a shame to let the princess sleep through the day. You ought instead to rouse her. That seems like the sort of duty a lady's maid should attend to. You enter the princess's bedroom and glance about. Her room looks the same as you remember it from the night prior, though the ceiling seems even higher when viewed in the morning's light. You can see now that there are fewer shadows to impede your view how very opulent your young mistress's abode is. Her armoire is large and imposing, as is the grate in which you will be expected to keep a fire lit during the nights. The princess herself, meanwhile, is curled on her side beneath the sheets, looking rather less grandiose than her title would suggest. She is attired in a nightgown adorned with frills, and her hair is split across her pillow like spilled gold. In her slender arms, meanwhile, held to her chest, is a doll, the very same one she was cosseting last night. You suppose this doll must be her favorite. Idly, you wonder what the doll's name is, though you do not suppose it matters. It is time to wake your mistress. You call out to the princess, but she is largely unresponsive. Her eyelashes are still sewn tightly shut, and her lips pursed in slumber. You purse your lips too and sigh. Well, nobody ever said your job would be easy. Once again, you call to the princess, and this time she replies. Her response is not a favorable one, however. She sighs, then turns away from you, her doll clutched to her chest. Just give me a little longer. The princess sounds so enfeebled, but you do not take pity on her. If you have learned anything from the conservatoire, save for knowledge pertaining to the respiratory tracts of fish, it is that one must be cruel to be kind. You do not think this adage was practiced with any great success in the conservatoire, but perhaps will have more of an impact upon the princess. You tell her once again to wake up, more sternly this time. You will not let her sleep, for she has slept long enough already. It is very slovenly, really, to still be abed at such an hour. Oh, defeated, the princess sighs. Alright, I can see that I can't twist you around my little finger. I'm up, I'm up. You don't need to nag me. Once you have roused the princess from her bed, and you have put her doll to one side, you set upon her toilette. You aid the princess in brushing her hair, a chore to which she submits willingly, like a cat might allow its fur to be brushed. You allow yourself to ponder, as you run the bristles of the princess's brush through her hair, how wonderfully soft it feels against your skin. But a curious query from the princess. Are you all right, dear one? Brings you back to your senses. You were rather lost in thought there. Look lively now, you wouldn't want the princess to catch wind of your salacious thoughts, would you? I thought that you'd learnt your lesson about that already. Suitably chastened, you finish with the princess's hair, then set the brush aside. Now that the princess's tresses have been taken care of, you must start on her attire. The princess remains seated upon the edge of her bed, looking up at you askance. She does not ask you to avert your eyes, nor does she make any motion of divesting herself of her nightgown. It really does seem as though she expects you to undertake this task on your own. Is that all right? You ask the princess as much. You would not wish to impinge upon her modesty, but she only laughs. Yes, that's all right. It's what you're supposed to do if you're my lady's maid. I'm used to being dressed and undressed. I'm not a bit squeamish about it. She might not be squeamish about it, but you are. You have never seen a naked woman before excepting yourself. Even then, however, you have always dressed and undressed furtively, not wanting to examine your body for longer than is strictly necessary. You have never much liked the way that you look. You make a few more mumbled objections, but the princess sweeps them to one side easily. It's all right. I might be a princess, but we're both people underneath all of our clothes. I doubt we look much different. You're not sure about that. You have not yet seen the princess unadorned, but you already know, to look at her face, that you are different. She is much, much prettier than you are. But she is waiting, and you do not wish to keep her any longer. You steady your nerves. Then you reach out with trembling hands as you begin to undo the buttons which run down the front of the princess's nightgown. You work as quickly as you are able, which, given how badly your hands are shaking, is not very. You fumble with a couple of the buttons, flinching as you do so. The princess, however, seems blissfully unaware of what it is exactly you're doing, or not doing, for your fingers have begun to seize up with the front of her nightgown. She is not even looking at you. Instead, her gaze is directed beyond your shoulder, to the windowsill and the sky beyond it. It isn't particularly sunny, but I don't think it's too cold outside. Going for a walk might not be a bad idea. What do you think, dear one? You think that you would like to finish undressing the princess as soon as possible, so you can make progress on dressing her again. The sight of all this exposed skin is bad for your heart. Fortunately, you are able to make quick work of the princess's nightgown despite your initial mishaps, spurred on perhaps by your anxiety. You bid the princess to stand, which she does, and neatly she steps out of her nightgown, her motions once again as graceful and as fluid as a dancer's. This task completed, you search hurriedly, wordily for the princess's red dress. You cannot find it, swept against a prickle on the back of your neck. Your palms, meanwhile, feel uncomfortably clammy. The moments pass awkwardly, uneasily as you search. The princess standing there, all the while, as naked as the day she was born. Why did you not find her day dress before you stripped her of her night one? What a fool you are! The princess, noting your panic, giggles and says, Are you looking for my dress? Yes, you reply, your face flushed. That is what you were doing. I thought so. I did wonder, before you started undressing me, why you did not ask where it was. Maybe it slipped your mind? It had slipped your mind, yes, to your shame. You were too busy trying not to fixate upon the princess's bared skin to think about how best to conceal it. My dress is in my armoire, the princess says, glancing over to the aforementioned piece of furniture. That armoire of hers is an intricately carved wooden structure large enough, or so you estimate, to fit it inside enough dresses to attire a whole ballroom's worth of princesses. I'd like to wear the red one. It's my favorite. Would you be a dear and fetch it for me? I don't want to rush you, but it's rather cold in here, especially when I'm still naked. She raises a good point. You turn away from the princess and make your way to her armoire. Once there, you open its wooden doors and peruse the clothes hanging within. It is just as you expected. Inside that wardrobe lies numerous dresses, all of them finely sewed and decorated with no shortage of ribbons, lace, and iridescent pearls. You find the princess's red dress soon enough, then hurry to her side. With your spoils in hand, you hurry to dress her, concealing once again the princess's pale skin beneath layers upon layers of soft red velvet. She is easier to look at now, you think, with her skin concealed. That might have been the most nerve-wracking task you have ever had to accomplish, even more so than your perilous escape through the foggy forest. Why, it seems a small miracle you can still remember how to breathe. No, that's much better. Thank you, dear one, for your help. You've not been here a full day, but I already wonder what I'd do without you. Shyly, you assure the princess that you did nothing, really. Nothing beyond your job. You did not do anything incredible. And, in any case, being complimented by someone so pretty is embarrassing. Aw, don't be like that. I want to compliment you. Why shouldn't I when you've been so helpful? It'd be rude not to, in any way. I think you're very pretty, too. Oh my. Your face flushes from this, more deeply than ever before. You ought to count yourself lucky, really. What with all this excessive blushing, that the princess does not seem to possess any vampiristic tendencies. You are making yourself quite the easy target. Now, the princess declares, why don't we go for a walk? It's a nice enough day and I get so very bored of being cooped up inside. You can't think of any particular objections to raise to this remark, and you think that the princess might have a point. The castle, though expansive, is somewhat stifling. The walls are so very thick, they put you in mind of a crypt. With your acquiescence assured, the princess quits her chamber, her posture elegant and her gait unhurried. She seems not to walk as she navigates her way through the seemingly endless hallways of her home, but to float like a cloud. The hem of her dress swishes around her legs, and her hair shifts like a shroud. The castle's courtyard, meanwhile, is sadly lacking in comparison to the princess's beauty. The courtyard is fenced in by the castle's walls, which look, in the stark midday light, tall and imposing, faceless soldiers standing sentinel. Though the sun is out, it is not particularly bright, and neither is it particularly warm. The courtyard itself, meanwhile, is in a state of disarray. The flower beds are in shambles, all overgrown with weeds. It is all rather depressing. The princess's castle might be great in scale, but the courtyard itself is simple, hemmed in to a claustrophobic degree like a coffin. The princess, however, seems to not share your dolorous mood. She, instead, looks elated by her newfound surroundings, her smile unwavering. Her unending joy. She gambols about like a lamb, flitting hither and thither as she examines the weed-infested flower beds. Her frolicking comes to a cease, however, by a bush. One is full of bright red roses. Oh! How very pretty! Do you not think they are gorgeous, dear one? The flowers are not too disappointing, you suppose. They make for a fine spectacle, in fact. A welcome splash of color when contrasted with the dullness and drabness which permeates the rest of the courtyard. Though other flowers in their beds are wilted, withered things, it is not so for these roses. They are a rich, bright red, just like blood, their heads so full they almost seem to droop beneath the weight of their own engorged petals. They are pretty in a sense. There is something unsettling about them, too, something that is almost obscene. How did those roses become so very red? What has been sustaining them? Could it be possible that these roses have been draining the life from the other flowers which are struggling to grow within this garden? It is a fanciful thought, but oh, they're simply divine. Looking at these roses always lifts my spirits. They really are my most favorite flowers. I simply must pick some of them. Perhaps I can use them to decorate my bedchamber. It could use a bit of color. The princess reaches out so as to pluck one of the roses free from its resting place among its brethren. You watch her, your breath bated, anxious that this gesture might result in perforated flesh and bright red blood. But the princess is not as clumsy as you fear. Of course she is not. Who did you think she was? You? Rather than worrying about other people, you would be better served if you worried more about yourself. The princess holds her newly pilfered rose to her nose and inhales, her eyelids falling shut as the flower's sweet scent washes over her. A few moments of silence pass. Then the princess begins to toy with the petals which adorn the flower's crown. Now, let me see. I wonder what fate has in store for me. She loves me. The princess plucks the petal from the flower's overburdened head. She loves me not. The princess continues with this childish incantation, all the while stripping her rose slowly and methodically of its petals. These petals flutter about the princess like bloody snow. The princess's voice, meanwhile, echoes through the courtyard, even more melodic than the strains of a pianola. She loves me not, she loves me not. The princess's fingers hover over the final petal which crowns her nearly denuded flower. Then, with a triumphant smile, she declares, she loves me, I knew it. You watch the princess, amused by her girlish good cheer. The little mantra she's been reciting is one you're familiar with. The girls at the conservatoire also used to engage in this little game, the younger ones at least, who believed that a fairy tale prince would whisk them away. You might have participated in this game yourself when you were a child, but you never pinned your hopes and dreams on a handsome prince. Your interest in princes has always been minimal. When it comes to fair princesses, though, well, that is a different matter altogether, isn't it? Pleasantly, you ask the princess whose love it is she wishes to court, a query which makes the princess giggle. Oh, dear one, who else would I be thinking of? Naturally, I was thinking of you. Naturally. She says it so easily, as though you ought to have suspected as much. And indeed, part of you did. You wanted to believe, yet part of you was afraid to. You did not want to be arrogant enough to assume that the princess might care for your affections. You begin to blush, your cheeks almost as red as the roses, while the princess laughs. She laughs and she laughs and she laughs, her voice clear and sweet like a nightingale's song, as though you are the funniest thing she has ever seen. You never liked being laughed at when you dwelt within the walls of the conservatoire, but it's different with her. You have not known her for all that long, but you are already entranced by her and snared. She has you wrapped around her little finger. Oh my! The princess's laughter tapers off into a series of giggles as, smiling, she wipes her eyes with the back of her hand. That was quite the amusing diversion, but I've just had an idea. You look at the princess curiously. What idea? You can't tell? You could not even begin to guess. I just thought that all this watching must be boring you, the princess says, tossing the rose's stripped stem carelessly to the ground. You should give it a try. Please do. It'll be fun. The princess retrieves a second red rose from the bushes, deftly snapping it between her fingers, and offers it to you. I want to see what fate has in store for you, too. You smile at the princess, touched by her enthusiasm. Indulging in childish games like this might not be the best use of your time, but the princess looks so very determined you would not wish to hurt her. What could be the harm, really, in consenting? The only real casualty of this game will be one singular rose, the rose that the princess is holding towards you. You reach out, meaning to accept the princess's offering, but oh no! You are clumsy and you seize the stem of the rose with a touch too much strength. The head of the rose might be pretty, but there is more to a rose than its bright red flowers. Roses have thorns too, a fact you are now being painfully reminded of. Pain flares through your finger and you gasp. You take a step back, the hem of your skirt swishing around your ankles. That's a lot of blood. Your finger is stinging and so are your eyes. You ought to have been more careful. Why were you so stupid? You poor dear, you're bleeding, the princess explains, alarmed. Then she frowns. This is all my fault. If I'd not suggested this silly game, this never would have happened. Please, let me take care of you. And how is she going to do that? Perhaps she means to take a handkerchief from her pocket with which she might staunch your wound. Princesses tend to carry handkerchiefs around with them, don't they? Silken ones? How else would they give brave knights tokens of their gratitude once these aforementioned knights have successfully slain dragons? Princesses can hardly dispense kisses as favors. It is simply not done. That is what you always thought, but please hold still. This might sting a little bit. This princess is anything but ordinary. Rather than take a handkerchief out of her pocket, she, instead, encloses her white slender fingers around your hand. Carefully, as though she is handling a precious object. She raises your hand, her eyes affixed, all the while, on the bead of startlingly crimson red blood which is oozing urdily from your wound. She licks her lower lip. Then she dips her head. I think this is the first time we ever see our character here. She parts her mouth, and with a soft sigh which borders on the sensuous, she slips your injured digit between her teeth. So much for princesses not dispensing kisses as tokens of appreciation. This might not be a conventional kiss, but feels intimate regardless, almost startlingly so. The princess's lips, which are as red as any rose, are enclosed around your index finger. You can feel the warmth of the princess's mouth about your skin and the wetness of it. These sensations make your whole body quake. You did not expect this. Tremulously, in a voice which wavers, you ask the princess what it is she's doing. Oh! The princess glances up at you, her mouth still enclosed around your finger. Didn't I tell you? I'm trying to stop the bleeding. Yes, you gathered as much, but is there a problem? I'm not making you uncomfortable, am I? It is not, you say, that she is making you uncomfortable, per se, but this is rather awkward. You did not expect it, that is all. And she is not worried that this is unhygienic? Unhygienic? The princess blinks. She's the very picture of innocence, which is funny, really, given your fingers still nestled against her tongue. I don't know what you mean by that exactly, but I've heard this is the best way to take care of cuts. My nursemaid used to do this for me when I was a child. It's what you're supposed to do. And, you ask, your voice catching in your throat, did her nursemaid keep staunching her wounds with her mouth when she grew older? Well, no, but my nursemaid was dismissed when I was 8 years old. That's the normal way of things. I had my ladies' maids to look after me then. How very interesting. And did they ever clean her wounds like this? No, the princess says, smiling mischievously, because I'm not clumsy enough to cut myself, silly. Now that was quite the sharp retort. Your face turns even redder if such a thing is possible, though this might perhaps be to your benefit. With some luck, all of your blood will flow to your face rather than to your finger, and your bleeding will stop. Your injury was not a deep one. There should be no need for the princess to keep on suckling, but she still is. You are not accustomed to the intimacy of this nature. It is making your heart flutter. If the princess knew what her mouth was doing to you, you are sure she would not be so very familiar. You feel quietly, crushingly confident that she would scorn you for your feelings and deem them unnatural. It would not be the first time. At this point, you should be used to rejection. Still stings, though. Stings much, much more than any thorn on a rose ever could. The days pass, following your misadventures in the rose garden, in a relaxed, unhurried sort of a manner. Your mad dash through the forest is beginning to feel like a distant memory. So much so you can scarcely recall the raw, naked fear you felt once you had fled for your life. There is no running to be had while you are working for the princess. You would have nowhere else to run, and, in any event, there is no longer any reason to run. The shadows which once tormented you have, at long last, begun to recede. You can scarcely recall, as you lie down in your bed, the petty cruelties you were subjected to by your classmates at the conservatoire. They no longer matter. Your attention is focused, not upon yourself, but upon the princess. The more time you expend with her, the more you come to care for her. You have become quite besotted with her, but you are yet to realize it. How very ignorant can one girl be of her own feelings? The princess is not half so ignorant as you are, though, despite having spent her whole life within the palace's walls. The weight of her own feelings are not unknown to her, and during one stormy night she chooses to make them known to you. You are in the princess's chambers later, perhaps, than you ought to be, later than is strictly appropriate. It is dark outside, and there is little save the light of the moon to alleviate it, that and the fire which crackles in the grate. You have only just finished stoking that very fire, and now you rise. You look to the princess, who is lying in her bed, and you bid her good night as you have many nights past. With a neat curtsy, you turn to leave, but the princess's plaintive voice gives you pause. Wait, dear one, do not go, not just yet. Perplexed, you pause, then look back at the princess. Though she is smiling, her expression is unusually wan. Is she all right? Oh, I'm sure I'll be fine. It's just nights like this, that make me feel a little out of sorts. And what, you ask, does she mean by that? Only that it is very cold and very dark, and it's very windy besides. I'm afraid there'll be a storm later. It was awfully cloudy earlier when we went out for our walk. The princess is not mistaken about that. The sky, when the pair of you promenaded around the gardens earlier, was grey and steely, the wind bitingly cold. You can hear the wind rattling mournfully against the panes in the princess's bedchamber. The princess's castle is built of stone, and is well fortified, but even with the fire it is rather cold. You do not think of how much chillier by comparison it will be in your humble bedchamber, which is not fortunate enough to have its own fireplace. It might sound childish, but I've always found it hard to sleep on stormy nights like this. They make me feel uncomfortable. You look at the princess with no small degree of sympathy. No longer clad in her bright red dress, she looks oddly, uncommonly vulnerable. Will she really be all right, all alone in her oversized bed, in her high-ceilinged bedchamber? You know it is silly of you to contemplate such a query. Why would she not be all right? There's nobody in the castle to hurt her, but still you fret for her. As her lady's maid, it is your job to fret for her. You would never want your mistress to feel unhappy. You ask the princess what it is she would have you do, and the princess perks up at this, pleased, perhaps, that you are taking the initiative. I wouldn't like to take up too much of your time when it is so very late, but would you mind sitting with me a little while longer and reading to me, provided that you can, of course? This is a fair enough question, but your pride bristles regardless. Hastily, you reassure the princess that yes, of course you could read. You were a poor student in many aspects at the conservatoire, but you had something of a gift when it came to the literary arts. Reading books is all you have ever been good at. Oh, I see. I suppose I should have known. You're so incredible. I sometimes wonder if there's anything you can't do. The princess's high praise makes you flush. Awkwardly, you look away. Being able to read, you reassure her, is not such a great feat. Perhaps it isn't where you hail from, but it is here. Very few of my old servants could read. They certainly couldn't read the books that I like. This piques your interest. Intrigued, you ask the princess what books exactly she likes. I'm fond of fairy tales, you see, old ones from centuries past. I have a collection of them here, the princess says, indicating a book on her bedside table as thick as a mortuary slab. This book is old, though, and the bindings are weak. The pages are brittle, the writing woefully old-fashioned. I didn't trust any of my past servants with that book, but I think you would do a good job breathing life into those old stories. Would you mind reading to me for just a brief while? Please, dear one, oh, please. The princess's request seems a simple one expressed so sweetly, so much so you see no reason to refuse her. You take a seat beside the princess upon her luxurious bed, which sinks beneath your weight. Then you retrieve the leather-bound book which is resting upon her bedside table and spread it open. The pages of the book are very brittle, like the princess said, and the bindings of the book are loose. You can feel in the heft of the book's manifold pages the weight of the ages concealed within it. How old is this book? Perhaps it is as old as the castle within it resides. It is with a quiet voice, hesitant at first, that you begin to read to the princess, a tale of courtly love which culminates in a lavish wedding ceremony. All the while, as you read, the princess listens to you enraptured, hanging, or so it seems, upon your every word. Once you reach the final phrase embossed upon the pages of this aged tome, and they lived happily ever after, the princess sighs as though this tale has touched her very soul. Would that there was a handsome prince to marry me, she says somberly, or, better yet, a beautiful princess. At this point, I think I would even settle for a lowly scullery maid. You blush at this idle remark and mumble, softly, that this would not be proper. The storm outside is still squalling, and you have never been one to raise your voice. You do not expect, therefore, that the princess will overhear you, but she does. She observes you, her head resting against her pillows, and says, "And what would be the problem with that, huh? As my maid, shouldn't my happiness come before any silly ideas of propriety?" "Well, of course," you reply, "but for a princess to marry a scullery maid—" "You're so hung up about that," the princess titters. "Don't pay it too much heed. I'm just talking to myself." As if anything like that would ever happen when there's no priest around who would officiate it. You think there are greater issues with the princess's plan than the lack of a priest, though she does present a good point. The castle is an empty one. Even if the princess were to find somebody that she loves, there would be nobody to make such a wedding official. You cannot help but feel like you have avoided a good deal of nuisance. But, by the same token, do you not feel a touch disappointed? Well, never mind. "That was a nice story," the princess says, "but I'm not sleepy yet, and it's still storming outside. Won't you read me one more?" "You would not mind," you reply, "but it's getting late. You really ought to return to your own chamber." "I know, but can't you find it in your heart to read one more story to me? Just one? You can choose a short one. I won't complain." You have some doubts about that, but, as before, you cannot resist the princess's demands. It is not, you think, because she is a princess, though that is, of course, a part of it, but because she is, well, radiant. You would not, you think, as you turn to the next story recounted in this aged compendium, want to upset her. You would rather cut out your own tongue. You read another story to the princess which is of a similar vein to the last, impossible adventures culminating, at their close, in a happy marriage. This tale delights the princess just as much as the tale you read prior, then she begs for another and another. One bedroom story soon becomes 5, and even then, when the candles which flicker on the princess's bedside are close to guttering out, the princess is not satisfied. Like a grasping, greedy child, she has never heard of moderation. When she wants something, she seeks to glut herself with it, her only request that of more. If she were less comely, perhaps her inability to adhere to the word no would be seen as a character deficit. The princess is very comely, however, and so, when she makes her next request, you almost agree offhand without considering the ramifications. "I think I could go to sleep now, but the storm's still raging. I feel lonely on my own in this big empty bed, so—" "I know." The princess's eyes light up like the night sky in a thunderstorm. "Why won't you sleep with me?" You stare at the princess, your eyes wide as goose eggs. Slowly you blink. Then, just as slowly, you bid her to repeat herself. "Didn't you hear me? Maybe you've been so busy cleaning up after me, you've neglected to clean out your own ears. I said, dear one, would you like to sleep with me?" If that is the question she truly means to ask, then it is easy enough to answer. Of course he would like to sleep with her. It would be an honor. But would it really be all right for you to accept such an invitation? It must be a gross breach of protocol, surely, for a lowly domestic such as yourself to share a bed with a princess. You sit upon the princess's bedside, fretting, while she observes with wide, beseeching eyes. She is waiting. "Well, what's the matter, dear one? Why do you tarry so? Could it be—" The princess's lower lip begins to tremble. "Don't you want to lie with me after all?" The sorrow present in the princess's voice and in her face makes you feel awfully guilty. Hurriedly you console her. You tell her, in no uncertain terms, that if she truly wishes to partake in your company, then you have no qualms with it. "Well, then, don't just stand there dilly-dallying, silly. Come and join me, come." And that is what you do, after returning briefly to your own chamber to change into your nightgown. Once dressed, you waste no time returning to your impetuous princess's side. She is already lying in her glorious four-poster bed, awaiting your return as though you were a knight-errant gone away to slay some wicked dragon. The princess giggles when she sees you. In your haste to change, you have made a hash of the buttons, and she bids you to come closer. "Let me fix that for you, silly." "Oh no," you say. "I couldn't possibly let you do that. I am but a servant after all. Should it not be your job to dress her?" "Maybe so," the princess says, "but I don't mind a bit of role reversal. It makes things more fun." You try a few more refutations, but in vain. The princess similarly discards upon all of them. Quite at the princess's mercy, she might be even more stubborn than you are. You capitulate to her demands. You let the princess unbutton the front of your nightdress, then rebutton them so the fabric of your plain gown is drawn shut. Satisfied with her handiwork, she has very elegant hands. The princess draws back and pats the mattress beside her. Now come in! It must be horribly cold out there, but these sheets are so warm. Coyly, the princess smiles. And so am I. You feel warm yourself as you slide into bed beside the princess. Your face is as red as the gown the princess so often wears, as red as the roses in the castle's grounds. All the while, your heart is fluttering. Does the princess know what an effect she's having on you? Surely she must. How could any woman be so blind? There, the princess exclaims once your body is lying beside hers. That is much better. Do you feel cozy now, dear one? You swallow and, with a shaky voice, you reassure her. Yes, you are cozy. You are quite cozy indeed. Very good. The storm might be raging outdoors, but it can't get us here. I know. When I'm with you, I'll be safe. It's strange, but the princess reaches out, then takes your hand in hers, twining your fingers together like a chain. When I'm with you, I feel so very light. It's as though nothing in the world can hurt me. You make me feel safe, so I want to make you feel safe too. I'll take very, very good care of you, I promise. You return her smile with one of your own, touched by her thoughtfulness, though something about her promise does make you wonder. Should it not be your job to look after her as a domestic? In a way, the princess replies after a pause, but you've been taking good care of me already. Now I need to return the favor. As a princess, I'm supposed to look after my vassals. It's all part of the job description. You were unaware that being a princess came with a job description. You thought the profession came with far fewer written responsibilities and far fewer forms to sign than, say, becoming a doctor, or an astrophysicist, or a mathematics professor. You tell the princess this sleepily and she laughs. You do say some funny things, dear one. I think you must be tired. Rest your head. You've been working so hard. I think you deserve it. Yes, you think, only half conscious. You think you deserve it too. You've been working hard for a long time, have been running for even longer, but now, at long last, you feel like you can let your fears go. Your eyelids begin to droop, your body will lacquer by a sudden, all-consuming fatigue, and, in a quiet, understated sort of way, your conscience is conveyed to Morpheus's kingdom. Your sleep is a deep one, despite the storm which rages outdoors. The wind is howling like a couple of wild cats, both locked in a vicious and bloodthirsty bout to the death, but you do not hear it. Swaddled by the warm blankets about you and soothed by the princess's presence, you are immune from all the ills of the world. When you are with the princess, you feel safe, secure, and, yes, you even feel loved. It is a pity, then, that these feelings do not last for very long. You know that something is wrong, catastrophically so, the moment you open your eyes. Your thoughts are hopelessly jumbled, but you're certain that when you fell asleep it was in a bed, a nice warm bed no less, beneath soft, comfortable sheets. You are not lying in a bed right now, though. You are not, in fact, lying at all. You are standing instead, against a cold, hard wall made of stone. The curve of your back is pressed against the wall so intimately you can feel its icy chill seeping through the fabric of your nightgown. Your feet, which are bare, are similarly pressed against cold, unfeeling stone. They feel so frigid you cannot help but tremble. You are trembling so much you can feel your teeth chattering together. They sound like castanets. The sound is almost jaunty as it echoes through your cell, for that is, indeed, where you are. The princess's bedchamber, wherein you fell asleep, is a thing now of the past. You are standing, instead, you realize, with a sharp start, in the cell of some great underground dungeon. You swallow, and when you do, you can taste something bitter on your tongue. Your stomach is beginning to churn with anxiety. You feel like you're going to be sick, a feeling which wells up inside you to a staggering degree when you catch notice of the stench. You are not, you realize, the only one in the dungeon. There are others here, others attired in the simple black and white outfits of servants which look much like the dress that you once wore. The others who are with you, however, in this expansive cell, manacled to the walls, are in no fit state to speak to you, nor to tell you of their plights. They are all unfeeling, unseeing, unbreathing. They are all dead. You cannot approach these servants to check their pulses, for you yourself are restrained, but if you could there would be no point. There's no way any human could survive the wounds which have been inflicted upon these sad, slumped bodies. Over there you see a woman slumped, the front of her once white apron now stained with blackish blood. There's a gaping wound in her stomach, one which her entrails have half escaped, and some sort of burgundy goop which might have once been pale pink. There's another woman slumped beside the first, of a smaller stature. She is skinnier. Maybe she's not a woman after all, but an adolescent like yourself. She might even be younger. The girl's age, or lack of, did not preclude her attacker from inflicting upon her horrors, alas, for her body is even more mutilated than the first. Her body is peppered with even more wheals and her face has been half smashed in. Only one eye remains, staring fixed at the wall in front of her, and the ruined remains of what was once her skull. Over there you see a woman who is missing both her arms and her lower jaw. Over there you see another who is missing her entire lower half. Where have her legs gone? You have no idea. The injuries inflicted upon these are ghastly, but the advanced decay is enough to turn his stomach. You do not know how long these carcasses have been lying down here, but they've begun to putrefy. You fear a similar fate may befall you should you stay here. You need to escape. Fitfully you struggle against the manacles which bind you, but alas, it is no use. You cannot free yourself from the walls. Your restraints are much too strong, and you are much too weak. Panic rises up in your throat, cold and icy, while terror seizes your heart. This, too, is glacial. It is obvious that escape is impossible, but you still squirm and writhe like a rat caught in a firestorm. There is little point, however, to your struggles. You succeed in nothing as you attempt to free yourself, save making the steel manacles dig into your abused wrists more sharply than ever. You gasp. That hurts. Well, you ought to have known that would not work. The very definition of insanity is, performing a said action over and over again, hoping for a different response. In that sense, perhaps one could argue optimism is not so very different from insanity. Now, that is an interesting point to consider, would you not agree? No, evidently not. You are still trying to escape, you foolish girl, as if that will do any good. The clangorous rattling of your silly restraints is rather starting to get on my nerves. You are making enough noise to raise the dead down there in your dark, dingy cell, and all your screaming is hardly helping matters. I wish that you would cease this infernal racket, but I know you will not. Nothing I say could ever get through to you. Not that you have ever listened to me in the first place. Perhaps you would listen to her, though. Is she not your kind, considerate mistress? Look now, she has come all this way, into the dark depths of the castle's cold and hospitable dungeon, to see you. Is that not kind of her? Oh, dear one! The princess trills, entering the dungeon with a series of light, lilting steps. It would seem like you've finally awoken. How are you? Based on all that infernal racket you've been making, it would seem like you have no shortage of energy. Balefully, you turn your head so as to meet the eyes of the princess. She's standing but a few paces away between the roughly hewn stone arch which bids one entry, but rarely ever an exit, to the dungeons. The dungeons are dull and drab, but the princess is wearing her favorite red dress. It is so bright and brilliant that, for a few moments, it hurts you to look at her. Once, the red of the princess's outfit made you think of romance. Now, it makes you think of violence. You must forgive me for leaving you down here for so long. That was unfair of me. I did think of waiting here with you by your side until you awoke, but... Once again, the princess giggles, a light, airy giggle which does not at all suit the situation in which you found yourself. A dungeon is not a fit place after all for a princess. It is horribly cold here, and so very drab. There's nowhere nice and soft to lay my head. I could have brought my pillows down from my bed, I suppose, and my blankets. But then they would have gotten dirty, and that would have been a disaster. I need to be more careful. I won't have anybody left to clean up after my messes soon, not when I've dispatched of you. Once again the princess laughs. Her laughter is light and lulling, like the chiming of a silvery bell, but it does little to alleviate your concern. If anything, it makes you feel more alarmed. Did she say she meant to dispatch of you? Yes, that's right. Could you not tell? I thought you might have figured that out already after waking up in a dungeon, silly. Still smiling, the princess takes another step towards you. Would that you could, you would cringe away from her, but you cannot. You are completely powerless. Is this Yuri gem, or Yuri slop? Where does this fall on the Yuri gem scale? The princess reaches out and places a hand upon your cheek. Her skin is very white, and though her touch is cool, it is less so than the frigid air in the dungeon. Though your body is aching, the princess's touch is gentle, and you find yourself leaning into it subconsciously. You wish she would keep holding you. You wish she would keep touching you. You luxuriate in her kindness as best as you can. But though the princess's caresses are tender, your circumstances rather undermine them. How can you relax like this? Oh, you're such a good girl, the princess says in a cajoling sort of voice, as one might address a cat. You've been so lovely to me while we've been together. I really couldn't ask for a better servant. I feel as though I've been spoiled. Why, then, you ask her, is she doing this? Improbable though it sounds, she must be the one who chained you up. There's nobody else in the castle who could have committed such a feat. Everybody else is dead. Ah, yes, how very astute of you. I was the one who orchestrated all of this naturally. Naturally, she says, as though her betrayal is a matter of course. Why, you ask, is this so natural to her? What does she mean to do with you? Oh, only what I've done to all my other servants. I have experience with this sort of thing, so please don't worry. I'll take good care of you. And by take good care of, she means, naturally, I'll kill you. There's again that word, which seems grossly inappropriate given all which has transpired. There's nothing natural about this. Do you not think so? The princess examines you, her expression ponderous. It's natural to me, even if it isn't natural to other people. This just feels right. Imprisoning her servants in the dungeon and letting them die? Yes, exactly. There's a bit more to it than that, though. I like you, dear one, Princess says, in a voice which sounds uncommonly serious. You've been good to me, like I said, and kind. For that, I will be eternally appreciative. You've been so good to me, in fact, that simply being with you is not enough, not anymore. Your company can no longer content me. I'm a greedy, selfish girl, you see. The princess's smile widens into something sinister, her eyes flashing with a fiendish fervor you have never before witnessed. And I don't want to feel you beside me. I want to feel you inside me. Of all the things your charming captive could have said, you did not expect that. The princess, perhaps noticing your confusion, begins to giggle, a giggle even lighter than meringue, just as airy. It is just as inoffensive. I can see how you don't understand, dear one, but you aren't the only one. My last lady's maid said that too. Wanly, the princess sighs, a beleaguered woe-is-me sigh which makes her look even younger than the scant handful of years she truly possesses. And the one before that, and the one before that, and the one before that. I thought that you at least might be able to appreciate my point of view, but perhaps not. I don't think it should be too complicated to grasp, really, but maybe my way of looking at the world is a bit unique. That's what my nurse always used to say, at least, when she still had the breath to speak, of course. You look at the princess. Where else is there for you to look, really? Your eyes are fixed to her face. She is still smiling, but there's something sinister about her smile. Or, perhaps, in your anxious state, you're only imagining that there is something sinister about her smile. It is easy to see things which do not really exist when your surroundings are festooned in shadows. In actuality, however, the princess does not look any different to how she usually does. Neither is she acting any differently to how she usually acts. She has not changed. It is only your perspective of her that has changed. Tremulously, you ask the princess what she means, a question the princess is only too happy to answer. It's simple, really, like I said. You were wondering, weren't you, why there weren't any guards or servants in the castle when you first arrived here? The question had crossed your mind, yes. You were sure that the princess said her ministers sent them away, though. Was that a lie? I wasn't being wholly truthful, no. I thought you would be afraid of me if you knew what had actually happened, and I didn't want that. I wanted you to stay with me. My ministers didn't send anybody away because I don't have any ministers. I dispatched of them too. I suppose you ought not to be surprised, but you still shudder regardless. My ministers weren't very much fun, I'm afraid. They had a lot of ideas about what I should and shouldn't do after my parents died. The princess stares at you, her eyes wide like black holes, empty, yawning abysses. So I killed them. I killed my servants too, though I did a more thorough job with them than I did my ministers. I did not care for my ministers, you see. They were all fusty old men, but I did love my servants. I loved my ladies' maids, and my undermaids, and my scullery maids, and my housekeeper, and my cooks, and my large retinue of retainers. They were like my family. They raised me in my parents' absence, and I adored them. They were so very dear to me that I had no real choice. I had to eat them. She ate them! Does that follow? Not logically, no. Why, you ask the princess, your voice trembling, would you eat the people that you love? It seems a poor way to repay them for their kindness. Well, why wouldn't you eat the people that you love? I don't think there could be any greater way of showcasing one's gratitude, unless you have any better ideas. You weren't expecting the princess to turn the tables on you quite like this, and, dumbfounded, you stare at her. You know precious little about love yourself, so it is hard for you to form a convincing rebuttal, but you muster up a few token arguments. You tell the princess that eating people isn't very nice, and neither is it strictly legal. A better way to show your gratitude to your servants would be with increased wages or increased holidays. The princess listens to your arguments, her expression astute, like a student poised to take notes in a very important lecture. Once you are finished, however, her concentration fails her. Her shoulders begin to shake, but it is not with remorse for what she has done. Instead, she is laughing. Oh, dear one, that's very funny, but why should I care about the law? I'm a princess. One day I'll be the queen. I am the law. That is a good point, but would eating people not turn her subjects against her? What subjects? I'm no fool, you know, no matter how I might act. I know what happens beyond the castle's walls. I know all about the plague. Once, I might have had a populace to govern, but they're all gone now. I'm a princess in nothing but name only, a monarch without any subjects. Don't you think that's sad? I know I do. It's so woefully lonely. If she feels lonely, then why has she been systematically slaughtering all of her domestics? It doesn't make a lick of sense. Perhaps not to you. Gently, the princess caresses your cheek. But I shouldn't judge you too harshly. As much as I like you, dear one, you are a commoner. Perhaps you can't understand the intricacies of my thoughts. Privately, you thought that anybody would be able to understand the intricacies of the princess's thought process, largely because it is unreasonable. You do not say that, though. Instead, you ask her the only question you could think to ask with your weary throat, which is sore from shouting. Why, you ask? It is because I don't want you to leave me, of course. Everybody leaves sooner or later, whether they pledge their allegiance to me or not. That is simply the way of the world. People are fickle and inconstant, even to me, a monarch. That is why I decided to eat my servants. I had no choice, you see. It was the only way to ensure that they would never leave me. When you think about it, they should be grateful that I would demean myself so, to consume their flesh and blood. I'm a ruler, you see. I treat all my subjects equally. I love every single one of you. And naturally, I love you too. You've been awfully nice to me. And you're very pretty alongside it. If you were a plain ugly girl, perhaps I would not shower you with affection quite as intense as this, but you've captured my heart. I think you're lovely. So, I will bestow upon you the highest honor I can conceive of. I want your body to mix with mine. Then we can stay together forever and ever. The princess leans in. You can feel her soft, silken hair brushing against your cheeks. You can feel, too, the warmth of her breath as it goes against your skin. It is cold in the dungeon, but the princess's close proximity is, perverse though this might sound, something of a comfort. Her eyes are wide and her lips are so red. Her smile, meanwhile, is so, so sweet. I've been doing my best to fulfill the role that fate has dictated for me, but really, the princess exhales. Her eyes, which are boring into yours, are like two dark tarns. Finally, you think you can see in the alarming lack of light, the lack of anything, in the princess's gaze some degree of humanity. It gets so lonely here. But this brief flicker of understanding, which passes between the pair of you, is soon cut short. The princess dips her head. She parts her lips, which are as red as the petals of a carnivorous flower. You feel the princess's breath against your neck. It is warm in the icy chill of the dungeons, and you shudder from it. For a few moments, you think that this overture of the princess's could be romantic in a way. But this too comes to a swift, merciless close. The princess's mouth is on your neck. The princess's teeth, sharp as needles, are in your flesh. The princess is draining your blood. She is supping on it in great greedy goblets, like a hungry animal, one who cannot truly comprehend the harm it is causing. Even as the princess sups away from you, her arms twined around your waist, you find you cannot hate her. She's far too unworldly. You are sure, as your conscience begins to fade, that the princess was being sincere when she spoke of her love for her past servants. This is simply the way the princess expresses this great love of hers, a love which is so very abundant it borders upon the monstrous. It is a love you never thought that you would experience. This love of the princess eclipses anything you have ever known before. It eclipses sanity. It eclipses reason. It eclipses all notions you might have once had of right and wrong. The princess, as you know full well, does not care about such concepts. You have always possessed a stubborn core nestled beneath your weak-willed exterior, but the princess is even stubborner than you are. In the face of her love, you have met your match. The princess draws back, desperately. You gasp for air, but she does not give you any quarter. As before, she dips her head, her red lips redder still with your blood, and splits apart her jaw. Her teeth, which are impossibly and inhumanly sharp, glint wickedly like knives. Then she tears out your throat. The front of your nightgown was white once. Now it is red. There is so much blood, you can smell it when you inhale, sharper than metal. It is so potent you can taste it on your tongue. You try to inhale, but this task proves to be beyond you. What with the twin perforations that have ruptured your skin? Your attempted breaths, when they escape your lips, sound like sad, sorry wheezes. Your whole body, meanwhile, feels as though it is on fire. You make for quite the sorry sight indeed. But you'll forgive me if my sympathy is limited. You did bring this upon yourself, you know. You reap what you sow, and in your case, you made a series of bad decisions which led to your untimely demise. Now, what do you want to do? Will you accept this fate of yours and rest in peace, or will you try to fight against it? Well, I'm gonna fight against it, I think. That's a good answer. I must admit I like it. It's impressive how very defiant you can be, even in a situation as discomforting as this. Now, try not to cry. Keep your chin up. This is but a minor setback in your story. Like all fair maidens, you are deserving of your own happy ending. You need only the strength to try and seek it out. Why don't we give this another go? Just try not to ensnare the hearts of any more monarchs, particularly those with unusual appetites. You are destined for far higher purposes than being an entree, and there are vastly more enjoyable ways to be eaten in this world. Your fate is, once again, in your hands. Now, I wonder, which path will you take? I'm gonna go to the shore, and we are going to stop there for today, because I've been playing this for 3 hours. Part 2, someday? But if you liked this, let me know, and I'll do a part 2 where we go to the shore and see whatever happens there. Give this video a like and subscribe, do all that engagement stuff. See ya.